All right, everyone. Welcome to Connect by Fluid. We're happy everyone is here today for our second version, bringing people together, connecting our industry on current topics. Today, we have four wonderful panelists that are going to be speaking on working with a family during a pandemic. Cassandra Gripe has been designing for 15 years. She is managing director at IA Interior Architects. She has spent that time focused primarily around workplace environments for everything from small startup organizations and nonprofits to building headquarters locally and around the globe. Her husband owns his own wealth management business, and their children are Alexa, 10 years old, and Marissa, 5 years old, and their first fur baby, Ellie, who is now 12. And they are all home together right now. Chad Simcox has been in the commercial real estate business for 14 years and a broker for 10. His practice is based on representing corporate occupiers in both the office and industrial sectors, with 50% of his business focused on clients with multiple locations throughout North America and 50% on clients in the Twin Cities metro area. His wife works at Land O'Lakes, and their children are daughter Gray, age 4, and son Bowen, 1.5 years old. As social spaces specialist with Hayworth in Minneapolis, Caitlin supports places where culture meets innovation, where people gather, connect, and restore. She leverages her 10+ years of design experience and industry savvy to bring research, insights, and inspiration for social spaces to the Minneapolis market. She is holding it all together at her home in St. Paul with her husband, Dustin, who's also working from home now, 2-year-old Eddie, 7-month-old Martha, and their dingo dog, Penny. And last but not least, Barry Stoffel is responsible for the implementation of Gardner Builders' vision. He supports teams across the company through coaching, mentorship, and is passionate about creating space for others to lead with autonomy and all the right tools. With over 16 years of experience in construction project management, Barry understands that building strong teams who are invested in the unique experience of each client produces the best outcomes. Barry's wife is a nurse, and they have 3 boys, aged 7, 5, and 3. So welcome all of our panelists.
Thank you, Megan.
Thanks,
Thank
Megan.
you. Yeah. All right. Well, first of all, thank you also for being willing to share the good, the bad, and the ugly. I myself am working full-time from home, managing a 2nd grader while my husband works in healthcare. So he goes out into the world every day. Luckily, our daughter's preschool is still open, but it's hard. They say it takes a village, but with social distancing, our villages are much smaller and more digital. So let's talk a little bit about how you each are finding support during this time. Chaz, you and your wife are both working from home right now. How is your company and your wife's company supporting your family?
Well, we have a very good story from Land O'Lakes with my wife. They offered up in April 80 hours of PTO for those employees whose kids are at home or are unable to go to daycare or have services. So during the month of April, she basically kind of worked half-time for her scheduled meetings. So that really helped out a ton. We're back to the new normal and scheduling, or I would say bouncing off both of our schedules on a day-to-day basis. But April was much easier because we were able to segment my work morning hours, 5 to noon, and her work in the afternoon, kind of 1 to 5. And we've kind of stuck with that so far in May, and that seems to be working pretty well.
Yeah, did you get a lot of support in being able to manage your calendar that diligently, where you only accepted appointments at sort of your allotted working time?
Right. So I'm an independent contractor and a broker, so I have no set hours and time. But for my wife, she was able to schedule nothing before kind of 12:30, and for me, that was the biggest, godsend to be able to work at all hours, night or morning, but to be able to focus my time in the morning hours before 12:30 was really beneficial to my clients, to be honest with you.
Nice. So Hayworth is a global organization. Are there any unique resources that you have access to, Caitlin?
Yeah, so we found out really early. So I think it was even the first couple days that the stay-home order was in effect that there was a resource I wasn't even aware of as kind of company-wide called Rethink First, and it's a technology resource for parents specific to children with learning disabilities. But they opened it up as everybody that was kind of a subscriber from all the companies around the world, and they gave 10 tips to support you right now, which I just thought was amazing. I prioritized it. I watched it. I watched it again. I had my husband watch it, and it really helped us start off on the right foot. Um, just simple tips like um, giving your children predictability. And my son's 2, so we're like really, really needing that right now. So we even went out and got a nice Velcro daily calendar for morning, afternoon, and evening. We got a weekly schedule. So we say, Mama and Papa have to work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and there's little visuals of that. And we get to have pancakes on Saturday. And, he can just really visually see it's 4 more days until pancakes. Okay, I can do this. So that's been really, really helpful. Lots of really nice tips. So if you do work for a large global company, I would recommend looking at resources if anything like that is available to you. If not, they recorded the one I listened to, so reach out to me. I'm happy to share. It's a public link. So and I'm happy to share the schedule resource because that has just truly been a blessing for us.
Yeah, that's really great. Thanks for feeling willing to do that. I know in my house, we had some good scheduling in the beginning, and then the wheels kind of fall off. My son's like, oh yeah, just sort of like Scrum Post-it note board. This is awesome. And later I was like, are you going to schedule your to-dos? Like, nah, not so much. So we just take it as it goes. So let's talk about the physical space a little bit. So some people have a home office already. Many families didn't necessarily have 2 home offices if there's 2 people. I'm sitting in my son's bedroom right now. So, Cassandra, you are a talented design professional, but I'm sure your home was not set up to support the activities that are happening now. How are you accommodating working from home, you and your husband?
Yeah, definitely not set up. Working from home isn't something that is really foreign to my husband or to me, but definitely not having everybody at home at the same time, trying to do all the activities. And, certainly the girls, I have 2 young girls, 5 and 10, and they go through waves of emotions throughout the day. So trying to find space to think, to do stuff like this was kind of challenging when we were all just thrown into this, however many weeks ago now, I kind of lost count. Fortunate enough to have a space that, it had a desk in it, but it was more so set up as my children's art room. Doesn't have a door on it. It's open to our house, which is a very open floor plan. My husband's working in the kitchen, and my daughters are, doing schoolwork at the table. So it's kind of evolved. We had from where we had it at the beginning when we first started working from home. But we're kind of finding a groove now where we've found signals for each other in terms of letting the kids know, like, a sheet up on the door means don't come in, mom's, mom's doing something you don't need to be in here for. But it's been kind of fun to also let them see what I do on a daily basis. I think, our kids know that we all work hard. And as much as we try to talk to them about what we do, they don't really get to see it. So it's really been kind of fun to actually have them kind of come and watch and listen on some things, or even, watch me try to virtually draw with someone too. So we're figuring it out though, still day by day. The school and from home and work from home, it just kind of creates new challenges every single day.
Yeah. Well, what a unique opportunity for them. I know my son probably thinks even more so now, but they just assume my work is like meetings all the time and email. They're like, I'm like, that's a job. Meetings and email. But in their brains, that's kind of what they see you doing. It boils down to.
I've been even careful to say, we are so used to saying I have to go to work right now, but I've been trying to shift my language to say I get to go to work for a little while and I'll see you at lunch. Just to say and signal to them that it's not this burden that we have. It's something that we're privileged to do. And of course, right now we all feel privileged that we do have work to go do. So just something simple that I've changed in my language.
Yeah, well, that's a really great point. Barry, how about you? What does your home office look like? And I assume you also have to spend time on job sites. What's sort of a typical day in the life of Barry right now?
Chaos for sure would be first word that comes to mind. This is one of my home offices. This is our bedroom. My computer sits on our dresser, and my workspace where I lay papers and plans and stuff out, it's on our bed. Sometimes my office is, I run out to the garage if the kids are getting too crazy and I have to be on a certain meeting. In the early mornings, it's at the kitchen table at 5 o'clock. I try to get up and start getting all this stuff done. Just try to keep my normal routine, which is, in construction, we have to be up early because we have a lot of our tradespeople on site that are starting to get out there and they need answers to questions. So I think when this first started for me too, it was I'm going to get to sleep in. I don't have to drive anywhere. And it felt like that at first. And then I just kept getting more and more behind. While there are some great efficiencies with not having to drive places, there's a lot of lost efficiencies with at Gardner, we're a super collaborative organization, super open office, and a lot of things happen just kind of organically in our office space. And that's now missing, which it's hard. So I'm just trying to figure out, I was in a groove and then things are changing again. It's everything's changing every day. So I'm just trying to roll with it the best I can. And if I got to grab my laptop and unplug it and run into a closet just to try to get 2 moments of silence, I will. But I spend most of my time, I say, in this room most of the day on Zoom calls and, changing out ear pods and trying to plug in this and plug in that because, it's just chaos around here because I have three little boys. I've got a 7-year-old Easton, 5-year-old Brody, and a 3-year-old Jack, and they're all very active little dudes that never stop running around. None of them are wallflowers, so it's just pure. It's basically chaos. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure they're like, "Oh, Dad's home, fun times all the time," and you're like, "Oh, I have to do actual work too."
Right. Well, I want to pick up on Caitlin. I get to do work, right? Try to change that narrative in my own mind, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe trickle to theirs.
It starts with yourself, I guess. I know I have a friend who's posted on Instagram herself in her closet with her laptop, and the small children come in. She's like, "Oh, they found me, even in the closet. I can't even get away." So
totally
real life. So outside of the day-to-day getting work done, we're missing all these face-to-face interactions. Obviously, I can see you on the screen, but it's just not the same. Not getting to see friends and extended family, and that's hard for adults, but it's also really hard on kids too. Chaz, how are you personally staying connected to friends, or are you?
Yeah, it's funny when I made the joke before that I feel like I'm closer with those family and friends that live outside the state and far away than I am with my neighbors now because we've been doing so many Zoom calls and getting some screen time together. I think for friends that I work with, we every Friday, Aves and Young, we have a meeting and talk about things going on and talk about best practices. For friends and family, I have a family on both coasts that we've each had a couple happy hour conference calls with on Zoom. And I think it's funny, I can see my neighbors and wave, hey, but we don't really converse or get in depth. But then with family and friends, I have some friends in Denver and Idaho that we get on an app called House Party every once in a while. And so some old college friends that I haven't talked to before, I've actually talked to probably more often than my neighbors or close Twin Cities friends. So it's kind of funny how that works. But and then with my mom, talking with our kids, before she maybe saw our kids once a week, once every 2 or 3 weeks. Now it's 2 or 3 times a week. It's still not the hugging and the physical contact, which is tough, but she is able to hang out with our kids much more often. So there's always a silver lining, and that's what it is in this situation, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Sandra, you've got 2 school-age kids, and I have a 2nd grader who is at home, and he really misses his friends. Apparently, I am not as good at ninja skills as friends. I'm too old, and I'm not coordinated enough to do all the things that he wants me to do. So how are your kids staying connected through this?
Yeah, I think that's been one thing that's we've all sat and had to really, really think hard about, right? One thing that I've found myself taking on, in addition to a number of the other hats that I wear, is I'm now an administrative assistant, and I manage my children's Zoom video conference schedule. So it's pretty entertaining, though, watching a bunch of 5-year-olds do video conference. I'll have to share that one day with all of you if you want. But I think my older one, my 10-year-old, she has a really close friend that lives nearby, and we as families discussed what was happening. And as much as we feel like we should be enough for our children, they need that social interaction with children of their age. So we did make the decision that because we both were in each other's houses for so long, and before everything started to happen, that any germs that were being exchanged previously were probably still there. But we didn't let them play inside. They put more miles on their bike, social distancing, than they probably ever have. They've become really creative with making houses in the garage with each other, doing little creative things like that, where they can still stay far apart but be with each other. My 5-year-old, certainly, it's a hard period for her. We have definitely made a different decision with her, and she's not been with her friends, unfortunately, only through video conference. Part of it, I think I've shared with someone before that, how do you get 5-year-olds together during a period of time where you're trying to teach them all about sharing, and all of a sudden you're like, don't share, don't. So it's been hard, and I think, as I mentioned before, I think everything just changes on a daily basis, and these decisions are just really hard to make. And our kids, they're just going through a really different thing right now, and it's interesting. And I think we just keep conversation open with my husband, myself, and other families too, on how we're all feeling about things, but trying to get that visual with them as much as possible.
Yeah, I think the longer it goes on, the more likely people are to sort of bend the rules a little bit, because you just balance the need for that safety and the mental well-being of yourself and your kids. So, Barry, you mentioned your 3 active boys. How are they adapting, and how are you noticing any other kids in your life or in the neighborhoods and how they're responding?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the neighborhood I live in, like, unfortunately, has like there's a lot of retired folks that are in our neighborhood, just the neighborhood we chose to live in. And so there's a few small pods of kids that are around that are like my family's age. But one thing I have noticed is there's older kids in the neighborhood. So there's like there's a couple sets of 13 and 14-year-olds, and a couple sets of 16, 17s, and a couple sets of seniors as well. And what I noticed, I picked up on that was more, I guess, what was used to is just like this wide variety of ages that kind of get together and hang out, because it seems like our society today is like so focused on play dates, and then we have our sports schedules, and then it's like that everything is just boom, 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 and it doesn't allow enough time for just like that free interactive like play. So what I've noticed is different groupings of kids are getting together based on their proximity versus so where they live. So you're seeing a different, like, my 7-year-old and my 5-year-old are playing football with the varsity seniors that live 2 doors down in the backyard. I mean, at some point it's just like, the kids got to be kids. I'm not gonna, you can't social distance them. You just can't do it. I'm not going to let them nope, you can't play football, you can't do this. And so I guess that's what I'm noticing. And then when you go by the parks, you're seeing a lot more, like the other day, there was a kickball game going on. I haven't seen that. The only one I've seen recently is the organized ones that are our age people that are doing it while they're drinking, but not actual kids playing it, right? I've seen a couple pickup baseball games at the park, which I haven't seen, I don't know, for 10 years, maybe longer. So those are the things that I've kind of noticed that are a little bit different, is just this group of different ages getting together, which I think is probably natural and healthy if you think back to like just general how people grow up in tribes and all those different, dynamics. So, and we've actually found a new babysitter out of it too. So that's good.
Bonus, you'll need that in the future when there's actually like somewhere to go on a date night.
I need it now just to go on a walk with my wife. Kids.
Yeah, that's true. You've got some that are a little still on the young side there. You can't leave them alone, or who knows what you'd come back to.
Probably a fire in the house or something.
Yeah. Caitlin, who are you most looking forward to seeing or doing when social distancing starts to lessen a little bit?
So, oh my gosh, it's the playgrounds. So I live in the city of St. Paul, and they've closed all the playgrounds. And we're so fortunate because I think in our 4-block radius between churches and schools and like public parks, there's like 4 or 5 playgrounds. And slides are life right now for my son, Eddie. So unfortunately, we have to like strategically plan when we go on a walk so we don't pass too many slides, because he will relentlessly ask about the slides, and he has a basic understanding. We'll say, we can't go on the slides, and he'll say, okay, the slides are closed, the slides aren't open today, there's a lot of people that are sick. And it's just like so heartbreaking. And it's like we can't go to the grocery store and our normal routines, and so just going about our normal business has been really tough. We've been doing some fun things, like we built a virtual zoo. So we laid the path of the Minnesota Trail at the Minnesota Zoo out with blue tape on our carpet, and we put all of our little animal friends in the places wherever they are, and we pretended to walk. And there's a lot of zoos doing live streaming. So we're trying to really leverage technology for some of those experiences. I also like really want to eat lunch by myself, or like any meal. My kids are in the like won't sit down for a meal phase, and my daughter is like in the puree flinging stage, and it just kind of hit my limit the other day, and I was like, I need to eat by myself, okay? Get up and walk away. But really, it's just that need to connect and see other people. In terms of family, my grandfather died 6 weeks ago, right at the start of all this, which was, just heartbreaking because we haven't been able to honor his life yet. And my brother and his wife just welcomed twins just last Saturday. So just 2 life events where we typically gather and embrace each other and celebrate life. Even my son, he looked at the pictures of the twin babies and he said, I want to hug them. And we're just really missing connection with people.
Yeah. Oh, that's really hard. Thanks for sharing that. I know a lot of people are experiencing kind of bigger life areas. We like to complain about the small things daily, which are hard, but there are other things going on that sometimes just really, really challenging at this time. So one of those things is being a leader, and it's a challenging and a rewarding position. But when you're remote, it brings a lot of new challenges. You're trying to be there for your team and support them through everything they're going on, getting the work done, and then dealing with your family and giving them time and space as well. So, Cassandra, you're leading a successful team, but it's still early days at IA. What tips do you have for managing your schedule with team needs and client meetings and family?
Great question.
Or do you need some tips?
I always love tips, No, I think, going back to, we were all kind of thrown into this, right? And so we spent a good amount of time at the beginning just trying to even figure out, how do we stay connected? As you mentioned, Megan, we're in the early stages of building IA, and we have some amazing people on board. One of those people actually started the first week of our stay-at-home order. So that's been really fun trying to, onboard and virtually connect, that individual with the rest of the team. It's been pretty successful. As, like I mentioned, we have some amazing people with us right now. But I spent a lot of time at the beginning becoming very organized in terms of touch points with team members. So they're scheduled 30-minute meetings basically every other day. That's whether they're individual with my team or if they're with the team all together. But that was one thing that I found through that first week, that first of all, to make them feel comfortable and answer any questions. But, you're so used to just walking by someone and just saying, hey, how's it going today? And, what's happening with that project? And you just had to become very thoughtful and organized around those meetings. To me, those meetings are actually always priority. I try as much as I can to manage clients and their asks for meetings around those, because I want people to feel that, these times together are really important. And I think that during this time as well, with everything going on, and I've had someone compare what we're going through, almost the 12 stages of grief too, where there's just various emotions that you're going through, letting them know that, it's important to talk about that. I have to say, through all of that, we're all professionals, and it's really easy to manage and organize that. People, I think, have become very understanding through all of this. As I think we all were run at the beginning of this. I know myself, I started to get to the end of the day and was exhausted. And I'm like, why am I so tired? And so I had to start putting some boundaries around meetings and boundaries around allowing myself to get away from my desk and get away from the technology, even putting my phone away on the weekends, which is hard for me to do. But it's family that's a little bit harder, especially with young ones around. And to them, especially the 5-year-old, as you all know, routine is key to a lot of stuff. But it can't be routine really every single day. So that's been, I'd say, one of the biggest struggles, and we still, again, are trying to work through on a daily basis. Our 10-year-old is great. She goes up in her room, she knows how to get into her Google Hangouts and all of her apps and do everything that she needs to, and then she's off riding her bike. But definitely the 5-year-old is a little bit harder if there's a meeting that interfered and, we're not doing reading time at the same time, and she gets off and doesn't really want to do it. So anyone has any great tips with like trickery? I'm all about like bribing the children too. So anything that you've found that's worked really great, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, it's nothing better than a good bribe once in a while. So Bear, you're a really integral part of the leadership team at Gardner, and you have the unique challenge of having a lot of your staff be out in the field as well, which presents another challenge. And I know it's really important work to care for your team. What are some of the highs and lows that you've seen in balancing that?
Man, that's a great question. It depends on the portion of work. So in construction, that like we kind of have, we don't have a division, but we have folks that have to put the work in place. So the folks that have to be out there and building, and the folks that are in the office that are also able to work from home. And I think balancing and making sure that like there's no, well, I'm essential too, and why do they get to work from home? And there's that art of just making everybody come together and say, hey, we're trying to reduce the risk of everybody. And that's why on that side of things, we've closed down our office. We only have 5 people in the office instead of the 50 people that we would normally have, just to really minimize that. And then we just make it a point too that a lot of our project managers are still going to punch lists, and they're, or they'll take over the punch list, or if we can go to site and take over some of the things. So our superintendents can actually, like, they need to be on site managing things, but if we can give them some relief, they do. We're trying to offer up like a lot of our folks that should be in the field, like our superintendents. Some of them will have a circumstance where they might have a immunocompromised spouse. So we're trying to let them work from home. So then we'll kind of, like, other folks are willing to jump in. Hey, I'll go and do your daily pictures today. So it's for us, for me, it's just really being there to support. It's just a different style of support because it's a little more hands-on. When you're trying to help someone out or get out in the field. I don't really know. It's so interesting. It's tough, to be honest. It's really tough to balance all the different dynamics in the organization. So I think, to boil it back down, it's just to be there to support. Really, that's what I always say that I'm here for, is I'm in a complicated support role to give people what they need to do their jobs. And whether that's a physical tool or just mental venting and to have conversations, just to be there. We make it a point, not just now, but always, to have one-on-ones with every individual within the organizations, just to build those relationships. And I think for us, it's keeping those going and making sure that we're doing those check-ins on a weekly basis, or even just spontaneously as well. And that's how we're doing it. I don't know if I even answered your question, but.
No, that's great. I think it is hard when you have so many people that you're supporting, and they're each in their own unique situation too, right? And they have different levels of support in their home. And so if they don't have a lot outside of work, then it really falls to you to do the heavy lifting. So, Chaz, I know in your line of work, you get to talk to a lot of different people and kind of hear their stories and check in with what they're doing. What are some things that you're hearing that you're kind of taking away from all of this?
Good question. So yeah, you're right. I mean, I'm probably talking to hundreds of people on a daily, weekly basis, and something that really helped me personally and our family, I don't know if cope is the right word, but feel more comfortable with our position and more blessed than anything, was it's very easy for me to take us stories on a day-to-day basis that make us feel so fortunate to be in the position we're in. Things ranging from sick family members or going through, you know, I've had two friends that have had babies during this period and their grandparents had never met those kids yet, or just having to be at the hospital during this period is alone would be difficult. To, you know, one of my clients, operators in Pennsylvania, was a varsity baseball coach for 13 years, and his son was a senior this year, and it was his last year coaching, and that obviously got canceled. You know, my heart goes out to our neighbors who have kids that are in high school or graduating. So there's so many stories around that make us feel so fortunate for what we have going on, that every time we're about to pull our hair out or, you know, lose it, we like to ground ourselves in stories like those.
Yeah, I think a lot of us are doing evaluation of what's important in life more than we ever did before, and thinking about the challenges, but the sort of hidden benefits or blessings that come out of it too, and how do you carry those things forward when things start to get back to a new normal. So let's talk a little bit about what you think the future of your daily life might be. I know a lot of daycares use technology to communicate with parents, you know, when they ate, how much, how many diapers they used, and what did they do today. You know, they picked somebody, they wrote their name. It's all very exciting. But Caitlin, you have a baby and a toddler at home. So have there been some milestones that you've been able to personally witness that if you were working and they were in daycare, you might not have?
That's so funny you say that, Megan, because when my son was in daycare, I asked the teachers, I think he was learning to walk, and I was like, but if he actually walked, you wouldn't tell me, right? Like you would let me think that they walked first with me, right? And they're like, yeah. Anyway, so it's kind of interesting. So when I started at Hayworth, it was just this past January, and I was coming into this new job right off of maternity leave. So 2 huge life changes right there. Which were hard enough to cope with. And then 8 weeks later, we had the stay-home order. So it's just been like one thing after another here. And thankfully, when I went back to work, we actually changed to have a nanny, which is never something that we thought we would do, but it's been such a blessing. We have a neighbor that actually participates in a nanny share with us. So when the stay-home order went in, we all kind of took a 2-week isolation break from one another, and then we welcomed our nanny back into our home. So, so she's here 3 or 4 days a week, and so we were like living in the daycare, which has been fun and crazy. And you know, I'm still nursing my daughter. She's 7 months old now, and so I have the ability to come downstairs and still have that relationship with her. I know many working mothers, that's such a barrier for them when they go back to work that they can't continue that. So that's been truly wonderful. We also are out of diapers for my 2-year-old. He is potty trained. I hope that for every toddler parent in America, they've gone through that with their children, just with the added expense of it and everything. I mean, it's been really nice. And obviously we're home all the time, so we don't have these like routine changes of where are they going to be? Are they going to have to go to the bathroom? So that's been great. And my daughter, you know, like I mentioned, she was 5 months old when this stay home went into effect, and now she's nearly 8 months old. And Oh my gosh, that girl's nuts. She's been crawling, she's cruising currently, and she's about to walk by herself. Like she is a mad woman. She wants to keep up with her brother. So it has been just so cool being a part of that experience firsthand. And even like I was working upstairs earlier and I heard cheers and clapping because she was walking down the hallway with her walker. And so I could hear it and I could come down and see what was going on. And so even though, and I'm not blind to the fact we are so fortunate in the situation that we're in compared to so many people. But yeah, it's been really cool to be here most days with them.
Yeah, well, what a special thing for them, siblings, across the board to be able to spend time with each other and form bonds as well. Chaz, you've also got young children. So is there any special moments you've witnessed? And then what are you guys thinking about for the future of daycare and the summer? And
Yeah, absolutely. One of our biggest concerns, so our oldest is just turned 4 and our youngest will turn 2 in August. And with our firstborn, we're fortunate enough for my wife to stay at home for 18 or 20 months through that very important period. And with our second, we just decided not to do that. And there were some, pros and cons and concerns. Over the last 2 months, they have formed such a great bond that they normally never would have. And seeing sibling rivalries and how they interact. And, now we're basically, I'm on 1 hour, she's on 1 hour, and we're both just we're all just kind of blending the kids together. And just watching them interact is great because they would have never have had that at daycare so much. And in all honesty, that we have talked about it so many nights now, and we decided not to continue with. It's so funny. We were talking about routines earlier, and since our son turned 1 last August, we've both been on this just awesome routine. I could tell you every, section of the day, who's getting up when and who's doing what when, and that completely exploded 9 weeks ago or 8 weeks ago or whatever it was. And so there certainly is a new normal, but we're going to pursue finding in-home nanny service or our grandmas or whatever for 2, maybe 3 days a week, and we're gonna try and make it work through the summer. I can work remotely for the majority of my work. My wife with Land O'Lakes certainly can work remotely for at least the majority of her time. So the foreseeable future, we're just loving this time with our kids. Before we get a half an hour in the morning, drop them off, come home, an hour and a half, and it's quick, eat dinner, quick, read a book or whatever, get ready for bed and go to bed. And we just feel so fortunate that we actually get to participate in our kids' childhood during this period. So, I think it certainly has changed our view of how 2 working parents are going to be supporting a family for forever, for here on out, at least till their school age.
Yeah, just be a new kind of routine you have to get into.
Yeah,
so
that's
you
right.
you can do it. You did it before.
Yeah.
Barry, how about you with kind of the schedule, the changes you've seen now? How do you see that adapting in the future? What do you want to take away from this?
Well, before you jump into that question, I just wanted to comment. I love the things that you guys are all picking up on. It's making me think about all the things that have been going on in my life and house, and I guess I haven't thought about it a ton till now, but it's all those little things that you miss, right?
Mm-hmm.
Depending on, and everyone's schedule and work life can be different. For me, typically would miss all the morning things that ever happened, right? I didn't know that my youngest Jack sleeps in till 8 o'clock every morning, which is crazy, but he does. Or that, Easton gets up right after I do at 5:30, and he goes and he'll watch some cartoons and sneak a couple cookies and then, and play some Legos. And there's just, there's all these little things and special moments that I get to witness now. And I might just be a fly on the wall on occasion, but for me, that's wow, that's really fun to see those things happening. So I love that you guys are talking about that. And I just it just kind of clicked yeah, that's some of the joys. I know in some of the other conversations we've had as individuals, we've talked about the stresses being, the joys are really high and the stress is really stressful. And the vacillation in between the two seem to be a lot more consistent and shorter terms than what they would have been. So yeah, I don't know. I felt like I just wanted to share that. It's really it's slowing down. It's those little things that are really that I'm gleaning like the joy out of just watching things that I would normally miss out on, you know? So,
Yeah.
yeah, right. So what was the original question? Sorry, I went off.
No, I think it's that. So how do you, moving forward, how do you want to make sure you can still capture some of that thing, the things you were missing before?
So I think for me, I really want to advocate for a, a new normal, right? Talking about the old norm, like you mentioned it earlier, we've all kind of touched on it, but like that chaotic, like get up, do this, do that, gotta go, I have to go to work, and then I have to do this, and I have to go to this, and I have to go to this client happy hour, and then I have to run home, and I have to read a book quick, and I have to check their homework, and I have to get them dinner, and I'm just gonna go to McDonald's today, and I have to go to, now it's baseball, or it's soccer, or it's sports, or it's ballet, or it's music lessons. It's just like, take a deep breath and slow down, and like, is that where the moments are really special, or are we just cramming too much noise just to keep up with the Joneses? I don't know, but that's what it felt like. So I'm hoping that the new norm becomes a reality check to, and a reminder that we're human and that we're not robots, and that it's really important that we pay attention to that. So I'm hoping that at Gardner we can do a better job of some maybe more work at home opportunities, maybe even shift the field guys to on occasion, and that you need to deal with, but can we shift to 410 so they can get Fridays off, and they can have more time with a full day with the family, and just really try to change our paradigm and like how we're living, and have a big shift. I think that's important, because if I look back at pre-COVID, it's like a lot of the things we're doing are so robotic. It's kind of makes me sick,
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that there becomes a new norm that has more of that human element, or awareness of it, and we're more intentional about being, humans.
Yeah, I think a lot of our clients, as we're working on projects together, there'll be more appetite for flexibility, and how do you take the things that are meaningful to people and allow them time for that. We know it's important, but wasn't always easy to prioritize that before. So
yeah.
And eventually we will be returning to physical workplaces slowly but surely. So Cassandra, is there anything that you're thinking about differently that you'll carry forward? And I know, again, with your office kind of just starting in a co-working and the future of that, what are you thinking?
Yeah, so I think, I've always been in support of a flexible work environment, providing people choice and place and environments that they're going to be the most effective. We do know, and I think that it's been reinforced, the research through what we're all going through now, that, nothing replaces building a culture and communication than being together. There's so much stuff that just happens that nothing can ever replace that. And what's been really interesting with my team, and I don't know if it's just because we do have a flexible work environment, we're very much get the job done. Key is communication with your team, timely communication. So I think that we've all gotten better at communication even, because, you have to be very intentional about it right now. But I think my team is so excited to get back together. They're just chomping at the bit. When I had to deliver the news when the shelter in place was extended that, no, we're not opening the office back up. It felt like it broke their heart, which broke my heart, but, we'll be back together soon enough. But I think, one thing for me that I think I'm going to take away from a lot of this, and as I've talked with people, and again, just going through the different emotions that I've gone through with all of this, and just trying to keep that pace that I kept when we were all out in the world, trying to keep that at home was exhausting. The emotional waves that I was going through with just decisions that we were all having to make, and not knowing, what our future looked like, and especially being, a company where we're 9 months old, and we're really finding our groove. And I just was like, oh my gosh, what is this going to do to us, and all that kind of stuff. And I've kind of hit a point though where slowing down has really been key. finding again those moments and finding what it is for me that works. And I think that that's something that's really important to carry forward. And I've heard all of you say that in different ways, and it's going to look different for everybody. But I think again, providing more of a flexible work environment, trusting our people, is going to make people feel more like they can slow down, right? Because you trust them. So I think moving forward, that's really what I'm going to take away from this. I really hope, in the US, we're horrible at our work hours, our, 7-day work weeks, probably tried to fit, 10 in there with all the hours that we worked. And I just really hope that people take something away from that, and just balance is key.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think we'll open it up for questions here in a minute. So anyone who's participating, feel free to add those into the chat. But before we close out, I'll just ask each of you if there's sort of the best tip or trick that you want to share with others, or kind of your final thought that you want to leave before we open up for questions. So Caitlin, do you want to go first?
Two things. One of them is, so my husband and I, we have 2 kids and there's 2 parents. So usually it's like when we are trying to balance this, it'll be like, okay, I need some time. You take the kids, then we'll switch. And we had a weekend where we kind of divided and conquered. And I think we need to remember to do that for our kids' sake, because they're probably sick of being together and they need some focused one-on-one time with each of the parents. So that's been, it didn't even dawn on me until I realized, like, these kids have been together constantly, and they just want to take each other's toys, and it's a whole thing. So that's been nice, just to connect with them one-on-one and make them feel special too. And secondly, I mentioned that we have a nanny share. We're so fortunate, and I've been thinking a lot about the way that people's experiences are varying so vastly right now. So you think about, on one end of the spectrum, we've got 2 working parents overloaded beyond belief. And then we think about our people in our lives, like they might, not have children or be single or whatever, and they might have just been furloughed, and they might be bored out of their gourd. Okay, so I would encourage you to think about your community and who's in your tight-knit circle, and maybe reach out, be vulnerable, and ask somebody, hey, could you come hang out with my kids for 1 day a week? I need a break. And obviously that is up to your discretion from a safety perspective. If you do a self-isolation and say, you're the only extra person I'm adding into my little isolation pod, of course, do what's good for you. But it's such a great relief valve if you can think of somebody in your life, and maybe they'll take you up on it, and maybe you'll pay them, maybe they'll let it, do it for free. But I think it's good for everybody involved. So I would just encourage you to think, like we've said before, it takes a village, and reach out to your village and leverage them. They're probably more willing to help than you think.
Yeah, great tip. Anyone else want to go? Final thought?
I think that final thoughts are really just how this started, and you saying, and Caitlin, you just reiterated it, like whether it's work, whether it's home, it truly takes a village, and your people around you. And I think that through all of this, we've really learned how much relationships matter to us, and not just being able to see someone. Like someone mentioned, I'm doing so many virtual happy hours, and I'm at a point where I'm like, I love you guys to death, and I really, really want to do this, but it's almost more wearing on me, and just to not be able to sit and to, like, even 6 feet apart and have that drink, or just talk, read the body language and all of that kind of stuff. So just really let everyone know how much you appreciate them, and the work that everyone's putting into to make our companies successful through this is just mind-blowing. I couldn't do it alone, and I'm just so appreciative of that.
Yeah. Awesome. Barry?
When your spouse's turn might be out there to watch the kids, one of the things that is common practice is, depending on the age, Paw Patrol or Blaze or whatever, right? And that's typically streaming on the internet, which takes up bandwidth, which has happened to me twice today, where I had a quick switch and like jump on my phone So have a backup internet. It happens way too often to me, or like when I have to run into other spots of the house, like I don't get coverage. And so yeah, just keep that in mind for your technical thing or tip, if you will. I think for me, like just personally, I heard, like, listening to everybody here, there's lots of great tips and just paying attention, like those special moments, like your kids, this is going to go, you hear this all the time from everybody, right? The years are short and the days are long. And it feels even more so now. And it's so hard to like hear that from your neighbor or your grandparents. But as I'm getting to actually be more of a part, or sometimes just a fly on the wall to watch the kids, it's really trying to garner those moments, because you're not going to remember every single project you work on, or every to-do you checked off, or every meeting minute that you took, or but your kids are going to be there forever. And for me, it's just really to pay attention to some of those things. And then to echo what Caitlin and Cassandra has talked about, community for us, just there are a lot of people that aren't just furloughed, but that are just straight not working. And not collecting paychecks, and finding ways to support them. Whether that's if you have those friends, maybe you're bringing them meals, maybe you're helping them out with a electrical bill. Who knows? There's so many different things, and just trying to help other people out. Or in the instances where there are small businesses, pay attention to those small businesses and support them. I think that's really important. So going back to supporting the community, to me, that's what that means, is really just finding other ways and different places to spend your money that support, whether it be your friends, your family, or the local, like the village. So that's my thoughts.
Awesome. Coming together and sharing stories like this helps. Recognize that you're not alone, and we're all experiencing the same things, and certainly humor and a little glass of wine doesn't hurt either. So I think with that, we will open it up to questions, and we'll have our panelists here. We can kind of toss them through. So we'll go ahead and do that now. All right. I see that we had a couple of questions coming in on the chat. Some of them are kind of along the same vein of being in your house all day, and you don't have a commute anymore. You don't have a happy hour at the end. How do you sort of end your day, know that working is done and you're shifting over to family, and just sort of decompress, that it's like you shut down your email and boom, you're right into the next thing. So I don't know, Chaz, do you want to maybe comment on that first?
Sure. I would say Uno. My wife and I playing Uno at the like at 9 o'clock has been really good. It's funny, we actually found like a half an hour if both of our kids can be taking a nap, if they nap in the middle of the day. That's like a nice time to actually sit and have a meal. But no, I saw that question posed, and frankly, a lot of times we work after the kids go down. But we do try and find something different. We bought a puzzle. We've been doing a puzzle and card games and things like that.
Awesome. Caitlin, how about you? Any tips you have for sort of stopping your work day?
Yeah, so I actually start my work day. So I actually get dressed and ready. I'm on so many video calls throughout the day that I really feel like I need to do that for my own sanity. And at the end of the day, I've been, sorry, I've got a friend that just joined me. At the end of the day, it's so nice out. The sun's out so much later. So after we do bedtime, we've been trying to get our bedtimes inched up a little bit in the evening, so that I can take the dog out for a really long walk and decompress after the day is ended. Because we need to at that point. And then, I heard a statistic yesterday that alcohol sales are up by 50%. And I know you just mentioned grab a glass of wine. I'm really trying not to indulge too much in that. So I've been like trying to have a cup of tea at night and read a book or something, just like get my eyes away from some screens and just have a minute to relax.
Yeah, I think getting yourself dressed and ready, even if it's not exactly the same clothes or same level of, makeup or things you would do to go into the office, is important to sort of set that distinction about the type of activity that you're engaging into.
Even if you're changing your like work comfy pants into more comfy pants at the end of the day, even like changing out of your work attire is helpful too.
Yeah, exactly. I see another question that came up about engaging teachers differently once school's back in session. So I don't know, Cassandra, have you thought about the fall yet? And how have you been engaging with teachers right now and sort of support for that schoolwork and getting all that accomplished?
Yeah, I really, honestly, that's a great question. I'm happy that someone brought it up. We all are still wondering if school is actually going to start in the fall. But I've always appreciated what our daycare providers and our teachers do for us. I know that a lot of times my children, especially my 5-year-old, is a little bit of a challenge. And so I really appreciate that. But I've always also known, after spring break or after breaks that, the kids come back to school and they're just a little crazy and hard to get under control. But I really didn't realize the true extent of it when the governor had said, no more school. I'm in St. Louis Park School District, and the teachers have had a couple days off here and there between my different ages to be able to go and clean the rooms and get all of the stuff for the kids back to them. And even with that one day of them being like, I don't have school, I don't have to sit down and do anything, the next day again is just crazy, getting her and them to try and focus and realize, like, get back into school mode. So, I think really telling them more often how much I appreciate what they do and how patient they are as people. Buy them more plants or just things that are sunny and happy to be around them. And then, there's always been opportunities to help out in the classroom, which I haven't taken as much advantage of previously. And I know there's a lot of slots, and teachers kind of want us to not only come and be with our kids, but to be there and help. And I'll probably start to engage in those sessions a little bit more as well, just to give them a little bit of a break and a breather during the day.
Yeah, that's really great. I think this is actually Teacher Appreciation Week. At least that's what my preschool reminded me and gave some suggestions for ways to help honor those teachers. And participating in the school activities, I think, is really great to help out. And I try to do that while I'm still cool enough for my son to have me, sit at lunch table with him, because I know eventually those days will be gone and he won't necessarily want me hanging around. So it was also fishing opener and Mother's Day this weekend. Barry, do you have any plans or thoughts about how you're participating or celebrating any of those activities?
Yeah, a little bit. Can you hear me? I had to run outside. My wife's a nurse, and got called in, and right after this, I had to run outside, and I'm trying to keep an eye on my kids. But yeah, we'll try to take the 2 older boys and take them fishing, and then just for Mother's Day, basically just be there to support and give her a day off. So I'm gonna take the 3 boys and try to disappear for a while. To be honest, I think that's the best gift you can give.
Yeah, that's good. I think so my husband asked too, like, what do you want? Do you want us to just leave you alone? I was like, yeah, that probably will sound good come Sunday. I don't know what I'll do or where I'll go, but we'll figure something out. Hopefully the weather is pretty decent. Caitlin, how about you? Do you guys have any plans this weekend?
Well, my favorite restaurant is doing curbside pickup, including rosé and a floral arrangement. So I went ahead and ordered that for myself. So that we can have a nice lunch on Sunday. I don't know if I'll share it. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to share it with my family or not. So I'm really looking forward to that. And my son and my husband actually just took off to go visit my mother-in-law. So they're going to be out with her for the weekend. She lives by herself outside of town. So they're going to spend some time there. So it's just the girls this weekend, and we're going to do some fun stuff around the house and have some quiet time. Oh,
that's nice. Get a little break there. How about you, Chaz? Any plans this weekend to celebrate?
My wife and I was joking about on Mother's Day and Father's Day, half of me on Father's Day just wants to get the heck out of Dodge, and half of me just wants to spend the day with the kids. So normally what we do is half the day we take for ourselves. In this case, Mario will probably go for a hike or go walk around White Bear Lake or something, and then come back and we'll get sushi because that's her favorite food and already had that ordered, and spend the second half of the day with the kids.
Yeah, I like that sort of balance, right? Because it is celebrating, and some of that is just honoring having time to yourself, but you also want to be able to be with your family and celebrate too. So
yeah, that means I get to golf on Father's Day.
yeah, see, there's usually that too, a little tally, just keeping track for future. I love it. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for participating in our conversation today, and for everyone that chimed in. I hope you got something out of it. I know we all did. To sum it up, I think it's really a balance, right, between new challenges, and there were always challenges before, and maybe a new appreciation of the joys in life, and to really be able to continue to support each other so we know that we're not alone, and everyone's just recognizing that more. So thank you so much, and thanks everyone for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you in the future.
Thank you. Thanks, Megan.
Thank you, Fluid.
Everyone. Bye.